Yeah. Where's Lonnie?
He's claiming it.
Whoever that was, we'll give you the audio. Go ahead, Tony. Did you want to say something?
All right, yeah, just welcome everybody to Media Day. I appreciate everybody being here, of course. Coach Mark Stoops entering his 11th season at Kentucky, obviously well established the school record for length, and has now become one of the top 10 longest tenured coaches in FBS college football. And also will be looking to add to his school record total of 66 wins this season. And at this point, we will turn it over to Coach.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks for being here. Appreciate all you guys, what you do, the stories that you write, the time that you invest. I see a lot of you, not only here, but I see you on the news or in the paper or on Twitter, and but covering a lot of events, not just football, but all of our student athletes. And you work exceptionally hard, and I've gotten to know quite a few of you through the years. It's been a long time. So thanks for what you do and the coverage, and I think always being fair. So appreciate that. But excited about this team going into year 11. It's hard to believe. Joked about it before. Sometimes it feels like an eternity, and sometimes it feels like a blink of an eye. So it's been a journey, to say the least. I think the times are very different right now than when I stepped into this job, and as I mentioned many different times, you better be ready and willing to adapt and to change, or else you will be irrelevant very quickly. So we're trying to keep up with those times. It's evident by our roster. You heard me say a million times, and even went over this with our team a bit yesterday, but in the first 10 years, you constantly heard me talk about build the winning culture, select the right teammates, constantly developing them. And things are different. We have to do that very quickly now. You look at the roster turnover, and there's not 100 guys in that room that have been there for years and have heard me talk and heard us build that culture. It's different. We have to do it very quickly. We have to adapt. We have to build this team. I feel like we have a very good football team, but we have to come together and be united and be a team very quickly. I think even between last year and right now, I learned different things, and just the approach has got to be different. Last year was the first time, the transfer portal NIL that's been involved for a few years now, but I think last year was the first year that it just kind of hit us like right in the face of what you're dealing with and the change. And I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. It's just different. And so we're adapting. We're approaching it in some ways differently. Don't ask me how. I mean, that's internal. But there's just things that I need to have a different approach and take a different approach. And but I like the way this team has worked. They've been very good this offseason, very solid winter. Great, our fourth quarter drills, things we do in the winter. Guys worked extremely hard. This summer, it's been relatively quiet, and the guys have worked. And camp is off to a good start. So things are in place. I think, the questions that you're going to ask me, I think maybe some of the weaknesses that we had a year ago are being addressed. They were addressed in the offseason by personnel. They're being addressed by scheme, making sure we're doing our part as coaches to put players in a position to be successful. And hopefully, we're through the course of this next 4 weeks, we're going to improve in a lot of areas. But it's fun. It's a great group, and we're attacking every day. And the approach may be different than 10, 11 years ago, but the enthusiasm is still the same. I feel really good about this coaching staff. I greatly appreciate the work that they put in because it is different. The time with recruiting is way different. You know, the sacrifices that coaches have to make, it's year round. And so it really doesn't stop. And our group has been tenacious in their approach, in sacrificing their time. And it is what it is as far as that goes. But it's challenging to say the least with your assistant coaches and with your time demands. So, but we're not here to complain about any of that. We're here to build up this year's football team. And again, it's a really good group. I feel like we have a really solid team. So I'll open it up.
Mark, health-wise, is everybody being
Yeah.
expected to be practiced to start this week?
Yeah, we're in pretty good shape. You'll see a guy or two out there today that just got a little nagging injury yesterday that you're going to miss out there practice today. Won't take you long to figure it out, but he shouldn't be out but 2-3 days, hopefully. A little soft tissue injury. One thing about our strength and conditioning team, they're amazing, and I wouldn't change them for anybody. But we push it pretty hard through the summer, and I can't blame this one on them. But we had a couple soft tissue injuries late in the summer, but our guys work exceptionally hard at speed development and pushing it to that limit of not training or overtraining them, but pushing their mobility and their speed development.
Coach, that indoor practice facility's gotta be really enhance your program.
Yeah, thanks. I meant to mention that in my opening statement. But it is one of a kind. It's beautiful. There is a ton of space. We had to go in there already this year, yesterday morning. Right now, we're still finishing some summer school. So our schedules are a little goofy, so we have to go real early in the morning on certain days. And had to go in there already, and it was wonderful. I mean, there's just a ton of space, and just the fact that our quarterbacks and receivers can catch balls on the sidelines and not worry about the track, and the D line and O line could get all the way off the field. There's a lot of square footage in there, and it's a first class facility. So, thank you to all the people involved, and it's an honor to have Karen and Rich Brooks' name on that field. And it puts a smile on my face when I saw that yesterday going out there, and so it's a wonderful facility, and thank you.
Is this the first time you've been in this
Team,
week?
as the team, yes.
Mark, can you talk about the schedule and also just the fan excitement with the number of tickets that have already been sold?
Well, can't thank the fans enough. Again, it's redundant. I say it a million times, but it's so true. We can't do this without the fan experience. That's a big part of playing in the SEC, and coming into an environment and coming into Kroger Field and feeling that electricity, feeling that energy. It's something else. And so thank you. We need everybody there. We need them loud, and it helps. It helps recruit, helps our players. Helps us. It makes a difference in games, as you've seen through the years. So very excited about the season ticket sales and the excitement on this football team. And the schedule is awesome. I'm worried about Ball State. So I'm not getting out over my skis, but I'm not even worried about them right now. I'm worried about us. We have a lot of work to do. But it is going to be, as always, a fun, entertaining schedule.
Mark, you mentioned the roster turnover, cornerback and tackle in particular. I know it's only 2 practices, but what have you just seen? What do you notice about those offensive tackles there?
Yeah, I think much needed. I mean, there's no denying that we need. I'm not taking your question, by the way. You caught me there. No, those guys have done a good job. Depth. We needed the depth. We needed the length. We needed some bodies, and I think it was 5 offensive linemen in general, and and the tackles were much needed. Playing good.
Coach, you talked about changing scheme, scheming around things. Is there any specific players that I know it's a couple days in, you're thinking the scheme may help a little more, their style?
No, I don't want to get into that. We'll see. I think if there's any one position where we're down a little bit in numbers right now, it's wide out. I think you all know the skill that we have there and some of the talent we haven't had in a while. So we have some really good players there. But with that, opens up the opportunity for others to leave, and it kind of hurts your depth a little bit. So we got to watch that position a little.
Mark, you mentioned the coaching staff. Obviously, Liam, we've talked a lot about it. Soon we're not going to talk about it and just see it, but how crucial is it to just have him back? And what are you seeing out of the system, the players, having him running the offense?
Yeah, there's no question the comfort level with bringing Liam back is there. I mean, it's evident, it's obvious in our building and with our players, and because he knows so many of them. But he has that energy, and again, I don't want to put any and all problems on a previous coach. That's on me. Things that have happened a year ago. The areas where we fell short, are a lot of them are within the program, and that's I'll shoulder that. And but with Liam, he brings an energy, he brings a confidence. The difference is this time compared to the first go around is he is a proven. He's proven himself that he could be successful in the SEC. When I hired him the first time, he hadn't had that proof yet. I believed him, or I wouldn't have hired him. But I think this time, I think you could feel that confidence, and I like the creativity. We have to play to our strengths and be adaptable, and he does that very well.
Mark, you mentioned
And the
about
salt.
depth of the offensive line, in particular, given this all season situation, how far is he from that season back?
Yeah, Nick had an injury, and I think he is going to have to take a medical red shirt. So Nick will lose another tackle there that had some promise, but had an injury and is going to have a hard time coming back from that.
Mark, you mentioned the soft tissue injuries here at the start of the season. What role does the data coming out of the exercise science and sports science programs, what role does that play in the program as we approach the season?
It plays a big role. It still does. If you recall, when I came here day one, I was probably as whatever you want to say, is up to my neck or as knee deep in sports science as anybody in the country at that time. Anybody, any pro team, anybody, because of who I brought with me and where we started with that. What we found over the years is what is very useful and what's not, and then there's still that human element. It's still like who can handle certain training, who could be pushed to that limit. And I'm not talking about the type of training that we all worry about as far as like heat exhaustion or, you know what I mean? So don't misquote me on that. I'm talking about speed training and mobility training and things of that nature, really testing, and pushing their speed. Not running so many times that they're gasping for air. You know what I mean? Our guys are in shape. We don't have to worry about that. And I love our strength and conditioning team. So the sports science is very important. I still look at it in particular as I talk about certain guys where I'm thin. You know what I mean? And so we monitor that. I monitor it daily on their loads, on their speeds, and to see how much they're training and make sure we don't overtrain them. But that's also team-wide. But there's also a gut instinct that you have to go with too. And so if you ask Coach Edmond and Mark Hill, they're going to listen to their gut. You know what I mean? And they're going to do what they do. To some extent, of course, they take it. But so it gets rather complex there. It's a hard question to answer. We look at it all. I look at it all, certainly through training camp, and as I look at speeds and things as we want to ramp up. So my approach is always gearing up, pushing them extremely hard, and then getting ready for the season. So there's a very, very simple version of it, but in general here. But I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Mark on Nick Paul, is he out for the season or?
He's, yeah, I mean, I may be premature on that.
Still in process. It's
I'm
being
in the
evaluated,
process.
still
I'm
in
in the process. Yeah,
How long,
could be either or.
Mark, being
Sorry.
Christian, is that a guy you all like in guard specifically, or would you rather see him
Guard.
tackle?
Mark, how
Far in camp, can you get a grasp on how improved you are up front on the offensive line?
Yeah, I think it'll take a little time. I know we're improved. To our standard, I don't know.
Mark, as far as Devin Leary is concerned, from a leadership standpoint, how has he transitioned and kind of taken that role?
Devin is a very natural leader. He doesn't overdo it. He still wants to work and take care of his own backyard and ultimately, finding his voice and finding that leadership role to whatever level it goes to. It'll happen authentically in time.
your first game, talking about heat and so forth, the noon game, September 2nd, do you want heat like we've had here recently up until this week or not? And what kind of measures do you take when you're trying to practice in mid-90s?
Yeah, I think, well, the last part of your question is the most significant, as far as precautions and watching that. I mean, you absolutely have to, and you have to take that very serious when you have some of the heat that we've had. Even going in the indoor yesterday was different than being outside because of the humidity in there with all those bodies, and that's different than some of the outside heat. But I think the biggest thing with precautions is listening to my trainers and making sure we have built-in breaks and making sure they're hydrated. And the players have to do a great job on their own, and we talk about that often. But young men will be young men. Some of them take it very serious and eat the right foods and hydrate and do all the things necessary to take care of their body. And some maybe don't do it as good as they should. So we constantly educate them on that and want them, at their peak. And there's going to be times when it gets tough through training camp. Now, training camp's not what it used to be. I mean, there's no two-a-days. There's no, we used to have them all day. And that's not the case. And so we got to make sure they're in shape, and we do it safely is the most important thing, John. But as far as what I wish for, you know my answer already, don't you? It is what it is. Whatever, man. Bring it on.
Mark, you often talk about making that jump, a player from his first year to the second year, big jump. What do you expect of Dion, and how can he add to what he showed in those levels?
Well, the first thing I noticed with Dion is he's got some natural leadership qualities, so everybody looks at his physical stature and the way he plays, but maturity and growth, in that way is extremely important. And he, even as a freshman, he had a way, if you watch him, to lead without being overly vocal. And I appreciate that about him because he's really a team guy. And in this second season, I'm seeing that a little more vocal, and I'm seeing him, lead and be comfortable doing it. And on the field, I think it'll translate. I mean, because he's had a full off season. He's had the strength and conditioning. He looks quick. He looks in shape, and we'll keep on working. But I expect big things out of him.
Mark, how much do you think the new clock will change coaching strategy?
I don't think much. I don't think much at all. The strategy, I many of you will act like I don't, but I try to manage that very well. Back when we were ground and pound and had to, that was very much on my mind throughout games, time management and watching the clock and, what our strengths were, and what we could do to win football games. And so I think overall it won't change the game much. and the strategy of it to be determined. You know what I mean? As far as like when and diving into the weeds on that, that'll still be a game-to-game game management deal, time management deal.
Theory here is that, like, you're behind, maybe you need to become aggressive earlier because it'll be easier to run out the clock.
It could be, it just depends on how fast you go, you know, like, and, you know, we've worked on ourselves of being more efficient. We're pro style, but to be more efficient of not taking so much time. And that issue, what you're talking about, that did bother me last year as well, of not being able to have some tempo and not just a 2-minute drill. You know, when you're behind and you need to pick it up. So that's being addressed just internally without the issue.
Folks, thank you very much. We're gonna get to our next coach.
Go ahead.
Hayden, been back in the conversation.
Yeah.
How do the coaches monitor that?
And
How do you monitor those type of things?
Well, hazing is not permissible, period. You use the word hazing. You know, so that's 100% not permitted within our program. There's probably different definitions on that, right? But I've always been that way because I just believe, you know, players are different. I've always prided myself on relationships with players. People come from all different areas, all different backgrounds. The comfort, you know, how comfortable they are within the situation. I just believe in taking care of young people, and I'm not alluding to any other situation because I have a lot of, you know, respect for the person who's going through that. You know what I mean? And so, but with us, it's to my knowledge never been an issue, and I know going forward it never will be because it won't be tolerated.
Okay, folks.
Thank you.
Coach in here momentarily.
Lead blocker?
Yep. Leslie, I have to do later. Yes, thank you very much. It's out.
It was yours, Lon.
Yeah.
It was sitting up there, was
Was playing. It was on. Tony sent it out in the hallway. Mark said it had to be.
I do one.
Walk of shame there, Lon. All right, here with defensive coordinator Brad White entering his 6th season at Kentucky and 5th as defensive coordinator. And obviously, glad to have him back and appreciate all the great work he has done for us during his time here. We will go ahead and turn it loose. I know we're bouncing from 1 to 1, so we'll go ahead and get started. Questions?
Brad, JJ said he gained 20 pounds over the SEC Media Days. What will that allow him to do potentially on the field?
Yeah, you know, whenever you add good weight and you can continue to stay strong and fast and explosive, that added girth, you know, allows you to hold point better in the run game. It gives you a little bit more push, you know, when you go speed to power in the pass rush. So there's a lot of obviously added benefits to that. You know, there's obviously a lot of, you know, the comparisons that, you know, when Josh made that jump between his junior and senior year, and you could see he was just able to play stouter. And it also, you know, in a lot of cases, it allows you to play with less injury. You're a little bit less frail's not the word, but you know, you've got more density to you. And so hopefully, a lot of, sort of the injuries he's dealt with have sort of been unlucky. It hasn't been really due to size, but, it'll allow him to play more snaps.
Coach White, we talked with Coach Stoops about Deion Walker and what you guys are expecting from him this year. Can you talk about that jump you guys are expecting him to make, and then maybe the other D linemen around him, what you're expecting out of them?
Yeah, every player here, and it's not just Deion, that when they're a freshman going into their sophomore year, you're hoping for big jumps. Obviously, he came sort of strong out of the gate, and that's a testament to him and his work ethic, and sort of how he approaches the game. But now, it's time to take that next step, from good to great and great to elite. Those kind of players take those steps, and it doesn't just happen just because you're a year older. It takes a concerted effort, a year's worth of focus, and it's going to take this next month getting ready, getting all of our guys getting into football shape. So all those freshmen, especially the ones that played significantly for us last year with Deion and with Keaton and Alex Fari, we're expecting that that they take that next step, and we need them to, all of them.
Secondary looked good in that open practice back in the spring. How have you seen them come along, especially losing Keidron and Carrington? How are they coming along?
Yeah, that's a group I think that that has a chip on their shoulder. They know, obviously what they've lost, and they know that, maybe outside the building, people view it as a position of question marks, and so they take that chip with them into every practice. They've taken it through the summer. Really proud of how they've worked this summer. I think it's been a good start, the first couple of days, but they need to continue that. And then, especially at that position in the third level, that is so much, you never really know what you have until game day, when you give up that big play. Because it's going to happen. It happens to every great player. So when you have a bad play, hey, are those corners going to be able to put it behind them and then play the next one? Are they going to be able to make game-changing plays? And they've done well in practice, but practice in a game for that position specifically, the back end, that's two different deals when you got a lot of eyes looking at you.
We're out of Geiger, is he back 100% and everything now?
Yeah, he's been moving around really good. Obviously, really excited to have him back. He looks fresh, and so a good first couple of days. He hasn't, and obviously a question you can ask him, but it hasn't seemed to have any kind of residual effect. It'll be good. We'll put pads on, see how that load goes. We've been really smart and conscious about how we've progressed that, but I expect big things from him this year.
What did you like about Abraham Rayner when you got him in the transfer portal this spring, and just kind of how's he fit into this the first week?
Yeah, I think the what we've looked for are guys that fit our system, and I think the success that we've had, especially at inside linebacker. The longer athletic guys have had a lot of success here. We get big bodies up front that can take blockers off them, but in this day and age, you got to be able to make plays in space. And he's shown that. He's put that on film. Obviously, we played against him last year here in the stadium. So, but there are parts of his game, and he knew, coming in that we wanted to really improve upon. And, I think he's embraced that. That was part of the reason he came. It wasn't, hey, we're not just going to tell you how great you are. Hey, listen, this is what you get better at. Hey, we need to put on some weight. Hey, we need to take on be stronger and more physical. And we haven't been in pads, but you can see a willingness, which is I'm excited about. He's tried to take those things, to heart. Again, as we put pads on, and then we, here in a little bit, we scrimmage and we go live. We'll really see what we have.
Brad, speaking of weight, is Octavius Oxendine back where you want him, close to where you want him? Kind of where's he at going into this season?
Yeah, he's pushed it in the right direction. You know, I think obviously he got too light last year, and he knows that. It's in the trenches, especially in this league, but anywhere across college football, you better have girth and mass and some substance. No matter how good your technique is, it's going to be really hard. And so I think he felt that a little bit last year. He's put on good weight. And I think he's in a good place. And now it's about sustaining through camp so you can continue to hold that weight through the season.
Okay, folks, thank you very much. We need to get some coach going and then get on the field. Thank you very much.
Basketball media. And the buzzer goes off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I just thought, maybe it's a little bit usually lasts a lot longer, like last year, like half the time.
I always get my credentials.
Yes. It took me a month to get them to do that.
Yeah, I do that.
All right. American coach Liam Cohen back for his second season as offensive coordinator. Turning after you in the NFL, and given our short time we've got, we won't go any further into introductions. Y'all know who he is, so we'll turn loose for questions.
Appreciate it.
Coach Cohen, you guys have had in this system, not necessarily you in Kentucky, have had either Chris or Benny for like 6 years. How does it change the approach when it's not necessarily that constant workflow guy that's been here for years?
You know, I do have a lot of confidence in the guys that are here right now. What that looks like, I can't really say right now in terms of how many reps or how many carries each guy gets, but it will be a little bit different in terms of being able to utilize all of our backs, utilizing all of our personnel. As you mentioned, Chris, you know, that was my only experience was with Chris, and I knew, you know, we could hand him the ball and you were going to get 4. That was something that you knew as a coordinator, as a play caller. That was very nice and reassuring. I do have a lot of confidence in the guys that we have in this room, but how we disperse some of those carries might look a little bit different. And you really go back and look. I was talking to the running backs recently. You look at the LSU game from 2 years ago, and we ran for 300 something yards in that game, and Chris only had 19 carries. And so if you can really kind of get all those guys a lot of work while keeping them fresh throughout the season, I think that'll be really important for us moving forward.
What have you seen from Devin, and just what's that relationship been like with those guys? Getting used to that,
Yeah, he's great. Devin, he's got a great way about him. He just has a really nice way of connecting with people, just so naturally. And he's a really high football IQ kid. He loves the game. He studies the game. Like last night, I called him on my way home. He was watching 2017 or 2016 LA Rams Hard Knocks. I'm like, well, how did you come to that? He's like, I just, ended up coming across it. I'm like, he's all ball, but extremely relatable to his peers, while also his coaches, and also he's talented. He's talented, so it makes it fun to really work with somebody like that.
Coach, he seems like he's a born leader, is that right?
Very natural. Not rah-rah, not always out in front, having to be the guy to speak and be that kind of person, but he leads by example. He leads by the way he approaches the game, and like you said, that's natural.
To come through with his injury.
Yeah.
And to come back.
Yeah.
That tells me he's a leader.
Oh, there's no question. He worked. He wasn't even really supposed to be throwing when the doctor said, "Hey, when we're going to do this thing, we don't even know when you're going to be able to throw again." And he worked so tirelessly to get to the point that he got to, and he's throwing the ball even better than he did this spring. And he feels extremely strong. He's had a couple freak injuries throughout his career. I don't think he's a soft tissue, injury-prone kid. I just think he's had some unfortunate issues that have come up that have really driven him to become the player that he is.
Potential unlimited.
I think so. I really do. I mean, if we can keep him upright, we got a chance.
Liam, speaking of that,
Yeah.
when you came back, this is a paraphrase, you said fixing the offensive line was job one.
Yep.
So where is that, where are you? in this process?
I think we're getting there. Extremely difficult to tell after 2 practices with no pads on. But the group, I think we, evaluated and identified some players in the portal that would help us out from a depth standpoint. We lost a few, but do feel good about the guys that did come in, and simplifying some of the protection schemes, simplifying some of the run schemes so that, hey, we can get really good at the things that we want to major in. And then we can just have some wrinkles off of those protections or run plays to have some good things for game planning and all that stuff, but just giving them a better chance, I think, will also help.
Liam, when you saw Dane and Marion started working with them, just how excited did you get just knowing you're going to be able to work with those?
Yeah, being a part of their recruiting process and then not being able to work with them in year one. So you get them after a year of being a college football player and be able to evaluate the film. A lot of times last year, they were just running around being natural football players and athletes. So now, how do we get them to be the best receivers that they can be? Route running, detail, splits, alignment, assignment. Knowing that when you get the ball in their hands, typically good things can happen. So how do we develop that skill set to move forward and give them the best possibility of being successful, not only now, but in their futures? So love those guys. I mean, been in my house a number of times, really close with them in terms of just the relationship piece. So really excited to see where this thing can go and to build off the success they had last year.
Liam, back to that offensive line.
Yep.
Courtland Ford played left tackle. You see, play right for you all. How difficult is it for a player like that to make a transition on that side? And what do you see from him that makes you think he can make that transition?
Again, another really high football IQ kid. I mean, well coached at USC. Got 2 A's this summer in his summer classes. Just does everything right. He cares. He studies, he knows the game. So for him to be able to make that transition isn't that difficult for him. He's athletic, he's long, he's smart, fits in extremely well in the room with his coaches. So excited about seeing what he can do for us. Keep competing at that spot for us. And, but really love Courtland and the approach that he's taken so far coming in here.
Months into this, how do you feel about the inroads you've made in that high school quarterback recruiting?
Yep. Yeah, for years, right? I mean, it was difficult, and you get a couple quarterback. Will helps us out a ton when you see that success, and then you go get a Devin, who's experienced quarterback, had a lot of snaps under his belt, and he comes, and then that helps, right? It just helps your overall recruiting in general in terms of getting higher caliber players in here, also recruiting the likes of the Dane Keys and Barryon Browns, getting better skill players in here so that when you are recruiting the quarterback position at the high school level, they see the future. They see the possibilities of what this can be at some point with good athletes around them. We've always been solid up front in terms of some of that stuff. So, it helps. And then some of the pro style system, the cell, all that can kind of help with the development of where they could potentially go.
Liam, our quarterbacks last year were the most sacked in the SEC. Can you talk about what you saw in review of last season and what potentially led to that mental errors, physicality?
I think just maybe a little too much sometimes in terms of just maybe too much scheme a little bit at times, and sometimes as a coach, we feel as though, okay, well, we've got some injuries, we've got some things up front that might not be the same as they were the year before, and you try to fix it with scheme, right? And sometimes simplifying is actually better, and I think that maybe just a little bit too much volume at times still was a new system for a lot of those guys coming in, and then you got moving parts. I dealt with it last year. We had 13 different starting offensive lines last year with the Rams. That's an NFL record. Not one you want to be a part of. Just being honest. It's the worst feeling in the world. And so I sympathize with what happened last year. And I don't fully just blame the players, and you don't fully blame the coaches. It's a collaborative effort. Now, okay, how do we evaluate what happened last year? Okay, we're in a 5-man protection. Well, the quarterback needs to know who he's hot off of. Right, we're in a 6-man protection, okay? Who's the back responsible? Just simplifying your basic schemes and protections while also giving the players the best chance of being successful.
Larry and Nevis,
Yeah.
two different people.
Yeah.
And where they play the game and all this. But we know that at some points in time, with almost every team, you're gonna have a breakdown.
Yep.
And the breakdown, does Larry have the ability to get a first down?
Yeah, I think he can move enough to be able. He's savvy, and the nice thing about Devin that when he does move in the pocket or escape out of the pocket, he tries to do a really good job of remaining a passer. So he's got his eyes down the field. I think you'll see when he does escape and move, being able to keep our eligibles alive, to be able to find guys on the move. Whereas, Will, when he would escape, a lot of times, he was rolling, and there were some great plays that he made. So many third downs I can remember where it was a poor play call or the defense schemed it up better than we did, and he went and made a play. You just can't account for that. But as a defense, when you have a quarterback that can move around a little bit, escape the pocket while remaining a passer, now your scramble drill gets into play and guys can, free up on the back end. Yeah, that's when the guy, he's just a quarterback, he's not. He'll tell you he's not the best runner in the world in terms of lowering his shoulder, but I think he can go and get us a couple first downs. But I believe some of the plays that he'll make outside of the pocket will be more with his arm.
Aside from the connections to Devin, what did you guys see in Demi that made you guys want to get him, and what have you seen from him in limited time since he's gotten here?
Yeah, when Demi came up, on his visit, you saw another high football IQ kid. Just loves the game. Pours into it. All he does is watch YouTube videos of football, and that's his passion. And we want to try to get as many players in here that have that same passion. He's got great hands, good missability in the open field, and I think he'll be good in pass protection as well. Well, you look at some of the ways that you can use him. I think he's got some ability to play multiple positions. He can play receiver, he can play running back, he can catch the ball in the backfield, he can protect. So, when you're looking at the position or any position in the portal, you're trying to continue to add competition and depth to that position. So, been really happy with what we've seen out of Demi so far. Right. Yeah.
Maybe some reps. Who are some guys on the two you've already
Right.
mentioned, Brown and Key?
Yeah.
That have to kind of make a push.
Tavion Robinson, it's a big fall for him. This is a big training camp for Tavion Robinson to truly take the next step and come on and be consistent, effort, all that stuff for us to be good on offense. You talk about DeKel Crowdis and Anthony Brown. Really, those are the three guys right now that if they can step up and be consistent and be accountable, then we've got 5 wideouts that we can trust. Really look at it 2 years ago. It was Wandell, it was Josh Ali, You know, Epps played, right? DeMarcus Harris played some. But if you're looking at 5 versus 5, I think we're in a good spot right now. Wandell had 104 catches. You can't take that back. That's hard to replace, right? So we have to do a better job of utilizing the tight ends more, utilizing the running backs maybe more in the pass game to spread out that wealth and spread out the targets so that, hey, it's not just Barryon and Dane. All those other guys can step up, but it's also other position groups that we're going to have to be able to utilize.
Folks, thank you very much. Okay, last
Yeah,
one.
what's that? Similar to most years, I know they're well coached. I do. I know they're well coached. They step out on the field every single day, and they know exactly what they're doing. They don't make mistakes. They're consistent. But I think if you look at us now from 2 years ago, I think we have a little bit more of a diverse room in terms of some of the things that we can ask those tight ends to do, both in the run game, in the pass game. We might be able to utilize those guys a little bit more. Hey, spread them out wide. They're good blockers, but also I think we can really do a good job of utilizing them in the pass game to create some different mismatches.
Okay, folks, thank you very much. We'll head out to our activities on the field.
Thanks, guys.
You earned that one, eh?